Testing is going to be a big part of this course, so naturally we need to get our test environment set up so it's nicely working. Now, of course, you can fiddle around with this later, depending on your preference, but for now, what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and create another database and hook this up to our test environment. Usually what you do is use something like SQLite, and you'd use an in-memory SQLite database. This is a lot faster, but I actually find it's nice to have a real database for testing. It just makes things that little bit more reliable. Okay, so I've gone ahead and created a cart testing database. What we now need to do is come over to our phpunit.xml file, and we're going to come down here and override our environment, and this is DB database. And we're going to go ahead and change this over to cart_testing. So now when we run our tests, we're going to use the cart testing database instead of our main database. The worst thing that you could possibly do is use this main database. So what's going to happen now when I go ahead and run my tests is, of course, we see a failure because the example test that we have by default is looking that the home page exists, and of course it doesn't. But what this is now doing is when we do hit the database, it's going to use our new cart testing database. Now, another thing I like to do is if we come over to our test section, over to our base test case, for each test that we have, so if we just open up this example feature test, we have this refresh database trait, which will go ahead and migrate the database and roll back every time we run our tests. Now, I find this useful to just add to our main test case, so then for every single test that we write, we migrate the database and roll it back, just so we don't have to keep using it inside of each test. Now, the difference here is when we run PHP unit, that will go ahead and run our migrations, and of course our migrations will be run over here, so that will run and roll them back. So that's pretty much it, or it'll roll it back before each test. So what we can now do is delete this example test, because of course we don't need these. Of course this one is going to pass, so if we run PHP unit now, we will get green. We've got one test and one assertion. Now let's go ahead and delete that, because of course we don't need that. We're going to be writing feature and unit tests throughout the course, but the way that we're going to structure this is after we've built a feature, we're then going to write the test for this. Testing can get in the way if you're trying to actually learn about a technology, so I'm going to write tests at the end of each part as we build features, so you can skip past the testing if you want, and you can just focus on the code if you prefer to. So now that we've got our testing environment set up, we can move on to the next section, and we're going to look at building out and testing our categories.